Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When was the last time you walked into someone's life, lit something up in them, and then disappeared? Maybe you didn't ghost them completely. Maybe you just faded, got busy, told yourself it wasn't that serious, moved on without explanation. You didn't think of it as harm, but they're still thinking about it. Today we're going to talk about something Carl Jung understood better than almost anyone: the shadow, and the damage we do when we refuse to look at it. Jung described the shadow as the part of ourselves we refuse to see. Not necessarily evil, just unconscious. The parts we've repressed, denied, or simply never examined. And one of the most common manifestations of the shadow in modern life is this: the refusal to take responsibility for the emotional impact we have on others. We think of ourselves as good people, kind even. But kindness without awareness is just comfort, your own comfort. It says, "I will be warm to you as long as it doesn't cost me anything." The moment it gets real, I vanish. I go silent. I block. I reframe you as too much, because that's easier than admitting I didn't know how to stay. That's the shadow at work. Not cruelty, unconsciousness. And unconsciousness, Jung would tell you, is never neutral. It always causes harm. Here's what happens when you enter someone's emotional world and leave without explanation. They don't just miss you. They start editing themselves. They replay every conversation, looking for the moment they became too much, too intense, too needy, too real. They ask, what did I do wrong? Why did they change? Why did they show up if they weren't going to stay? And the cruelest part is that you've moved on. You're already onto the next thing, but they're still in the wound you left. A wound they can't even properly name because you never gave it a shape. You just disappeared. Jung had a phrase for this: psychic infection. The idea that our emotional states, our patterns, our unresolved conflicts, they don't stay inside us, they transfer. They leave traces in others, especially in people who open themselves to us. You are not a sealed unit. You are a force that affects the field around you. And if you're not aware of that force, you will keep leaving wreckage without ever understanding why the people around you seem to fall apart. We live in a culture that has industrialized emotional avoidance. A seen message, a slow fade, a left-on read, a blue tick that becomes a wall. We've made it so easy to exit a human being's life that we've forgotten exiting has consequences. We've confused the technological ease of disappearing with the emotional permission to do so. But technology didn't invent ghosting. It just gave it new efficiency. The underlying pattern is as old as the shadow itself. I would rather erase you from my reality than face the discomfort of an honest conversation. And here's the Jungian truth about that. Whatever you refuse to face doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It becomes part of your shadow. And it will show up again, in the next relationship, the next friendship, the next time someone needs you to be real and you find yourself retreating into silence. You don't escape by avoiding. You just accumulate. Jung's answer to the shadow wasn't shame. It was integration. Looking at the parts of yourself you've been ignoring and asking, what is this? Why am I doing this? What am I protecting? So let's get specific. If you know you're not in a place to offer what someone is hoping for, say it. Not harshly, not with a TED talk, just honestly. I'm not in a place for this right now. That sentence changes everything. If you entered something casually and the other person caught feelings, acknowledge it. You don't have to feel guilty for living your life, but you do owe them clarity over silence. If you disappeared on someone and you know it, even months later, a simple acknowledgement heals more than you know. Not to reopen anything, just to say, I was careless with you, and I'm sorry. This is what shadow integration looks like in relationships. Not dramatic confessions, just the small acts of honesty that close open wounds instead of leaving them infected. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Most people don't intend to hurt others. They're just not paying attention. They're running from their own discomfort and leaving emotional debris in their wake. Becoming conscious, truly conscious, means accepting that you are a force in other people's lives, that what you open, you are responsible for tending, that silence is not neutral, and that the most courageous thing you can do in any relationship is tell the truth, even when the truth is, "I can't do this." Because that too is care. Save this if someone's shadow ever left a mark on you, and share it with someone who needs to look at their own.